Hello, everyone. There is a very important topic that I'm going to talk to you today. Today, as you know, we are going to do a quiz on cultural studies. But I'm also going to discuss with you why cultural studies is important. Today, we live in a culture or a society where business is important, where communication is important, where the ways in which we live or lifestyle is important. Culture includes all these things. Cultural studies is a way of understanding all these things. Culture studies is more inclusive than any other subject you can think of. It includes everything in our life. It touches on economics. It touches on education, art, literature, entertainment, sports. Culture studies is in a way what we are, how we live. Naturally, culture studies is not one thing. Culture studies has many branches, many approaches. We have already seen that culture studies can be about people, youth, aged people, disabled people, queer people. Culture studies can also be about media. It can be about gender, nation. There are so many branches, even spaces. Culture studies can be about race, modernity. In culture studies, we get a comprehensive and diverse perspective on who we are, why we are living in this manner, where are we going. Culture studies is very democratic. That is why it is so important, because it is about each and every one of us. There was a time when knowledge was about the elite people, the powerful people. But now culture is ordinary, says Raymond Williams. It is about the way of our life. It is about the food we eat. We have food studies. It is such a liberating idea. Every literary work that we have read, that we know, can be looked at from the perspective of cultural studies. Cultural studies obviously uses deconstruction, Foucauldian methods of analysis, all these techniques of reading and interpretation that we get from literary theory or cultural theory is applicable in cultural studies. Cultural studies also connects everything. Even though it is so diverse, there is a connection to everything in culture, everything in life. It is amazing. As you know, it did not suddenly happen in the 21st century. Even though in our exams, in our syllabi, we are talking about culture studies only recently, it was there from the 1960s, from the post-war period. And it therefore is there in the background of all the theories that we talk about, because literary theory itself was born in the 1960s. So, are you ready to look at some questions now? Because these questions will help you to put your ideas in place, even if you're not preparing for an exam. These little questions are pieces of information that you can read about, apply, think about. It is an amazing way. I think questions and answers are not about testing our knowledge or ignorance. It's all about learning in a new way. It's not only an evaluation technique, it's a learning technique. So here is the first question to you. Which theorist has talked about social capital and cultural capital Social capital is whom we know, our connections. For example, in the Elizabethan period, John Lilly was a writer with a lot of social capital because he knew the right people, he had the right connections. The university wits had a lot of cultural capital because they had degrees from Oxford and Cambridge. Compared to that, Shakespeare had less because he did not have university education. Why do we all need cultural capital? We need learning and degrees. As soon as we join a course, we want to know, will I get a certificate? Does this degree have value? Why do we think like that? Because cultural capital or degrees or cars that we buy, clothes that we wear, all these enhance our social value. We become accepted in the society because of many of these things. Cultural capital is not simple and, a genuine concept. Sometimes it's very artificial. It can lead to showing off. But it has relations with power. We are what we are. We have this certain position in the society because of cultural capital. I'm not saying that anybody who gets a degree gets it for some material reasons or, with some ulterior motive. I don't mean that. But in our society, there is such a climate where we have to give importance to these aspects of cultural capital. The person who talked about it, I'm sure you know, you're writing in the chat box, it is Pierre Bourdieu. He was a very major writer when it comes to culture studies. We should all know him. There are other concepts that he talked about, like habitus, fields. There is a book that he has written, Distinction, a social critique of the judgment of taste. That's a very important book. I'm sure you know about it. Distinction. In which year was it published? Remember, they in examinations, they ask you about years or chronology, not because they expect you to mug up, not because they expect you to memorize, but because they expect you to intelligently cross-connect with the age, with the other things that happen in the age. Because when you study something thoroughly, organically, you have to think about what happened in that age when Pierre Bourdieu published Distinction. It is in 1984. That's right, Amit. He also talked about cultural intermediaries. If there is anybody here who does not know these things deeply, I am exhorting you to take up the responsibility and read more. Guys, it is really exciting and interesting to read cultural studies. You will love it. So 1984 is the year in which Distinction, a social critique of the judgment of taste, came. Pierre Bourdieu's book. I hope you'll remember that one. Now, Pierre Bourdieu's concept of habitus. Habitus refers to what? Habitus refers to the deeply ingrained habits and attitudes of people. Because you belong to a certain place, because you belong to a certain gender, because you have certain educational background, you will have a certain habitus. Habitus is deeply ingrained habits and attitudes of people. Sometimes in a very essentialist, stereotypical manner, some of us will think, he belongs to that caste. He will only say like this or act like this. He belongs to this region. He will act like this or do like this. That is essentialism, stereotype. That is not habitus. What people think of you because you belong to a certain gender or caste or class or region, that is not habitus. Habitus is your individual ideas, habits, attitudes. For example, can you think of habitus examples? Some people always drink green tea, eat organic food. They are conscious of their health. For example, some other people eat a lot of fast food. They are conscious of taste, pleasure, more than health. Both are right. There is no right and wrong. Some people watch TV and relax in the evening. Some people play games and sports. Some people sleep early. Some people read books. Why do we do all these things? This is deep-rooted in a lot of things in our society, in our daily life. You know, the cultural studies theorists study everyday life. And all these situations in which we live all give us certain habits and attitudes. And with these habits and attitudes, we enter a field of activity, habitus and field. Everybody in the society is not equal. But in a certain field, for example, rich people, poor people, whoever they are, when they all become doctors, they are kind of equal. That is what we expect. But field is not a simple concept. We expect that they are somewhat equal. But think of Bama, who wrote Karukku. Bama was a Dalit woman, is a Dalit woman. She became a nun, a Catholic nun. And what happened? She experienced oppression, discrimination, because she is a Dalit Catholic nun. You would think that all Catholic nuns, for example, are equal. Not necessarily. So, habitus and field, they are not simple concepts. There is a lot of research, meant to be done there, because they vary according to power relations. They vary according to historical conditions, right? Am I boring you with all this explanation? I'm so sorry, guys. I want to just inspire you in some way to do a lot more work. I'm sure you're doing a lot of work, but I just want you to fulfill all your dreams in life by bringing out your best. Who among the following has theorized the banal post-war everyday life? I just told you that. Post-war everyday life is a concept that is studied by cultural theorists. Listen to me, guys. This is André Lefebvre. He was a very great inspiration on other theorists also. He talked about space, urban spaces. Edward Soya, for example, was influenced by him. Yes, Amit Pandey, Susan Sontag also talked about similar concepts. Now, who wrote The Production of Space? Is it André Lefebvre, Edward Soya, Homi Bhabha, or none of the above? The Production of Space is a concept by André Lefebvre. Did you wonder what that is? Did you wonder what is production of space? I know some of you might have wondered. We have the solution. Ta-dang! Do you want to know more about this text? Here you go. The Production of Space is a book which searches for a reconciliation between mental space and real space. Have you thought about this, guys? There is something called mental space. Sometimes we find that our mental space expands. When we are with the right people, when we get appreciation, when we have the right conditions for life, our mental space expands, isn't it? But sometimes it constricts. This is layman's mental space. But mental space in cultural studies also means the space of the philosophers, the thinkers. The real space is the physical and social space, the intellectual space and the physical social space. There is always a clash between mental space and real space. Mental space is not snugly fitting into real space. All these are very interesting ideas. In the course of his exploration, André Lefebvre moves from metaphysical and ideological considerations of the meaning of space to its experience in the everyday life of home and city. Tonight, everybody, after this video, think about and write about how you experience the space around you, how you experience your room. Today, I visited a hostel where some of my students are living. The space was really cluttered. It was hot. They were all crammed into one room. And the experience of that space, I felt, is very, very different from how it would be if there is more space, if there are windows, if there is greenery, if there are beautiful curtains. How you experience space has to do with the people you live with. It has to do with your ideas, your thoughts. It is a very complicated concept, right? Think about it. Next question. Who among the following is associated with the idea of disjuncture? Disjuncture. Alia, there are very important books on cultural studies. Any primer on cultural studies, including the primer written by Pramod K. Nair sir, will give you a very good idea. There are also Simon During and other such people who have written internationally acclaimed books on cultural studies. Who among the following is associated with the idea of disjuncture? Disjuncture is a concept associated with the globalized society. In the globalized society, everybody is moving to and fro, traveling, media is moving, capital or money is moving, ideas are moving, technology is moving, but there is no easy movement. There is actually a disjuncture or a disruptive movement. When people travel, it is not always easy. When ideas travel, it is not easy. There are 5 ways in which you can experience disjuncture. Who talked about it? It is the Indian American thinker and theorist Arjun Appadure. Disjuncture is even the name of a work that he wrote. And according to Appadure, people perceive their globalized realities in terms of 5 elements or 5 scapes. Ethnoscape is the movement of people. Mediascape is the movement of media. Financescape is the movement of capital. Technoscape is the movement of technology. Ideoscape. So think about it, read about it. Who among the following popularized the concept of globalization? You know, the global we talk about, but our reality is local. The local is our reality. The global is a myth, actually. When we experience McDonald's food or KFC, when we use Yardley perfume or powder, when we drink Pepsi or eat Lay's, all these multinational corporations are not bringing us the international products. They are bringing us a localized international product. The taste, the packaging, the experience, the advertisement, everything is slightly different to suit the local scenario. And this idea is developed by Roland Robertson. Globalization. Think about that also. Now, Paul Virilio, he is a man who talked about the contemporary city as a warlike city. He talked about speed in this warlike city. Was he a French cultural theorist, urbanist, and aesthetic philosopher? Tell me, is it true or false? Yes, it is true. That is right. Amid this juncture and difference in a global cultural economy is right. We have posted the link to our culture studies book. It is a very inexpensive but extremely useful book. It will be a mistake if you don't buy it, because for a small amount of money, you are getting a lot of things in that book. Even if you don't buy, it's okay, but do check it out. Link is there. Structuration is a concept propounded by Anthony Giddens. Structuration involves, all aspects of a structure, the agency, the people who are doing, the people who are experiencing the benefit of an action. Structuration by Anthony Giddens is also a very important term. Kimberly Crenshaw is associated with which school of thought? Kimberly Crenshaw is associated with, that's right, Amit Pandey. Paul Virilio is associated with dromology. Dromology. Kimberly Crenshaw is actually associated with one school of thought here and another very important concept. She's associated with critical race theory, and she's also associated with intersectionality. Intersectionality is a very important concept in gender studies, which says that gender repression is not only because of gender, it is also because of race, class, region, so many other things as well. Who advocated the concept of Black Atlantic in favor of a hybrid and transcendental idea of Black identity. That means the Blacks are not confined to Africa. The Blacks are a nation in themselves. The Blacks are there in Europe. The Blacks are there in New World or America. They are there in Africa, Latin America, across the Atlantic. There is a Black community. And this constitutes like a nation in itself. This is an anti-nationalistic concept, Black Atlantic. Why is there a Black nation like that? Because of the transatlantic slave trade. And this idea of Black Atlantic is developed by Paul Gilroy. Youth cultures was a primary concern for the influential Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies, CCCS. Is it true or false? It is true. The CCCS talked about youth cultures as well as working class cultures. Dick Habitus is associated with Renaissance studies, true or false? Dick Habitus. He's associated with subculture studies. He wrote a book called Subculture. It is false. He is not associated with Renaissance studies. Postmodernism and popular culture is a work asserting the triumph of marginal voices. And who is it by? Amit Pandey, I am full of appreciation for you. You seem to be an expert in cultural studies. Postmodernism and popular culture. Who wrote this work? It is Angela McRobbie. Angela McRobbie. Guys, please check out the link that we have provided. It is a book on cultural studies, a very inexpensive book and very, very useful book. Many people have really got initiated into cultural studies because of this book. Women, Race and Class is a 1981 book on Marxist feminist analysis of gender, race and class by Women, Race and Class. 1981 book on Marxist feminist analysis. Who is the author? Is it Angela McRobbie, Angela Davis, Donna Haraway? It is Angela Davis. She is a Black British theorist. The concept of symbolic power was first introduced by Dash to account for the tacit, almost unconscious modes of cultural and social domination occurring within the everyday social habits. What do you mean by that? There are some ways of domination occurring on us in our everyday habits. And this is called symbolic power. Symbolic power is the unconscious modes of cultural domination occurring within everyday social habits. It is by Pierre Bourdieu, the author of Distinction. Modernity at Large offers a path, that is a book. It offers a path to move beyond traditional oppositions between culture and power, tradition and modernity, global and local, pointing out the vital role imagination plays in our construction of the world of today and tomorrow. Who wrote Modernity at Large? Is it Antonio Gramsci, Arjun Appadure, Angela Davis? It is Arjun Appadure. Modernity at Large, Arjun Appadure. Guys, I want to ask you something. Our online course coordinator is also here, Ankita. Why don't we synchronize the online live sessions with our 9:30 poll in Telegram so that you can study the same thing? You know, after we finish this unit-wise revision for NET, we will start a synchronous course where you watch the YouTube video and you answer the poll in Telegram 9:30 next day. Watch the YouTube video, answer the poll next day, so that over the day you can study. And if you just want entertainment, that also you can do. Oh my God, Amit Pandey, that is such a blessing to hear. You answer all the questions, and I'm blessed to know that it's by reading our book. Thank you so much. The Making of a Counterculture. Reflections on the Technocratic Society and its Youthful Opposition. It is a work by Dash. The Making of a Counterculture. Reflections on the Technocratic Society and its Youthful Opposition. Is it Dick Habitus? Theodore Roszak is the answer. Theodore Roszak talked about counterculture, movements that went against mainstream culture. And Dick Habitus talked about subculture. That is right. Yes, Vibrant Colors of Life. We will have a synchronous course, and we should continuously remind them in community posts, etc., that you have to attend the session, you know, in YouTube as well as Telegram. And that will save you. You will pass exams because of that. Everyone, let us do after this, after we complete 10 units. Right now, we are in 7th unit. Right. Great. Postmodernism, or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, is a 1991 book. Anjali Raghuram, are you able to chat? Anjali was saying that she is unable to chat. Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism is a book by Dash. What does the author do here? The author offers a critique of modernism and postmodernism from a Marxist perspective. The author is offering a critique of modernism and he's a Marxist. So not Jean-François Lyotard, not Jean Baudrillard, because they're not Marxists, are they? It is Frederick Jameson. Frederick Jameson. Neo-Marxist he is. He wrote Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, where he connects postmodernism with virtual culture. You know, the culture of credit cards, internet, and postmodernism is connected with consumer capitalism. Postmodernism is connected with consumer capitalism by Frederick Jameson. He connects modernism with the age of the combustion engines, the electric combustion engines. And he connects realism with the age of steam engine. That is the connection. Right. Imagined communities, or option D dikha hai. Imagined Communities, Reflections on the Origin and Spread of Nationalism is a book by Benedict Anderson, where he says, nations are imagined communities. Am I black enough for you? Popular Culture from the Hood and Beyond, a work which transforms the politics of ghetto life into popular culture. Have you heard this one? This is very new and most of you may not have heard it, but please read extra. Todd Boyd wrote, Am I Black Enough for You? Who among the following has explored the idea of medical gaze? Medical gaze, Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault. Between past and in birth, birth of the clinic. He's talking about how medicine is defining us and how medicine involves power. Both past and future is a work on political thinking. Between past and future is a work on political thinking by Hannah Arendt. They often ask about her in nets. I have seen Hannah Arendt's names many times in net and set question papers. Please read about her, guys. Nation and Its Fragments. I think I said this yesterday. Is a work by a subaltern studies writer, Partha Chatterjee. Nation and Its Fragments. So that brings us to the end of another interesting session on culture studies, and various aspects of literature. I hope you have been following all the videos. I hope you have been sharing it with your friends. I hope you have been reading extra, because it will tremendously help you if you do that. So that brings us to the end of the session. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, peaceful night.